We get to learn Torah together for the sake of heaven, for the sake of Torah. Before we get going on our Torah study, I was going to tell you what Rabbi Backstead is. He's been wanting to do this for years, and I don't know if y'all heard my Jerusalem of the Mind talk about the pineal gland and all that stuff. I'll just give you a little brief overview on what that is. The pineal gland in your head is your da'at, and we've been studying da'at, and so that is literally your da'at. The Evan Stia, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, where the Dome of the Rock is, that is the da'at of Earth and of Adam. And of Adam HaRishon. And then there's the da'at of Adam Kadmon. And so if you look at it like this, you have a big brain, and there's a da'at inside that, and then there's another, that's Adam Kadmon, all right, which is this entire structure. And then there's another brain, and there's a da'at, and that's Adam in the garden, Adam HaRishon. And then there's another brain inside that with the da'at, which is Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. And then there's another brain, a little brain inside of that one, and a da'at, and that is you. And so that is how this thing has scaled to where you are today, to actual where we are. And as we're going to get into our lesson today, we're going to learn a little bit about the term 1000. And I know if you've read anything about Messiah ben Yosef, Messiah ben David, the twin messiahs, Messiah ben David is considered the 1000, and that's what the twin messiahs represent. Basically, let's just say in Guvarot, it's 499.5, and in Hesed, it's 499.5, and together, you have 1,000. And as we're going to learn, this is why there's the 7 days of creation, or 6 days of creation, and that's the 6,000 years, because everything rolls in 1,000. All right? And we're going to learn today a little bit from the lesson class that I had earlier about where that comes from, so we can see our life and our lifetime and why that is so important. But going back to the pineal gland and prayer, this is the method of how the prophets prayed. This is the secret. He's coming out with the book How to Pray Like a Prophet. And so you have to, yes, you have to understand. You have to understand that it will only take 1,000 people to flip to the Messiah. It doesn't take the whole world. It doesn't take, all of Jerusalem. It takes 1,000 people doing this to actually trigger it, because as we've learned, these are formulas, and it doesn't matter who you are, the formula works. Balaam knew the formulas, he could do it. The heir of Ra, we're going to learn, knew the formulas with the golden calf. So that's how they created the golden calf, using the same formulas. Now, basically, he's going to set up times at 6 in the morning, 9 in the morning, and at noon, and at 6 at night, 9 at night, and midnight. And it's not that you have to do this at all those times, but if it's 9 o'clock in the morning and you're up and you would like to do a little meditative prayer, do it. If it's noon, do it. If it's 6 at night, you don't. So, in other words, to try to make a network of da'ats, of atoms, coming together to virtually change the world. And the process is to, I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but I'll get you started. That way you can meditate on just this principle. Go into your, the Da'at is the Holy of Holies. Alright, so just at the temple, when the temple was at Mount Moriah, the Holy of Holies part is the Da'at of that structure. That structure is set up like the Sefirot. It was set up on the Evansteia, the rock. That's where Jacob, and Abraham and all those guys were. Okay, so they were always working on Da'at. Just as Arona to Jezubite gave it to David, that he gave him the Da'at. All right, and so that's a huge formula of the Canaanite, who was a Gentile, who took care of the Da'at of Adam until David got there, which is very prophetic for us, that we are taking care of the Da'at of Adam until David gets here. It's going to flow that way. So the Gentiles are very important. So what you do is just basically this: go into the center of your mind, in the center of your Holy of Holies, and then you put yourself, you bring Jerusalem and that Evansteia to you, and you're inside it, and then you're inside, you're inside Adam's head, of Adam HaRishon, Adam in the garden, and then you, since we've already made this, you get inside the Adam of Adam Kadmon, and that's where you sit, and that's where you envision yourself, and that's where you pray, and that's where you meditate, and that's what you focus on, and you then really and truly become praying like a prophet, and you have aligned yourself with the Ein Sof in a way that you will have a great prayer. You may see visions, you may there's no telling what will happen. So anyway, those are the times. If everybody is interested in doing something like that, you don't have to do it all the time. Just if you think about it, do it. And we'll discuss that later. When we have time, I will maybe give the Jerusalem of the Mind talk again in here, so that everybody can familiarize themselves again with the anatomy. But once
is that what you did at the library?
No, that's what I did at West before on the Monday that Chad wasn't there, was Sutton.
And I wasn't there.
Yeah, that's the one I gave that day.
Yeah, okay.
I gave Jerusalem of the Mind. It's a very powerful talk. So anyway, that is literally how you pray. Because remember, Da'at is the upper Yesod. Da'at is the upper Yesod. All right, so I don't have to do the math for you on that one. So you are literally in union with Jerusalem, with Adam Kadmon, and with Hashem, the Ein Sof himself. There is no stronger prayer you can do. You have created a network, a main line, a main vein to talk to God and for Him to talk to you. Okay? And that's what He wants. So you are then, what would you become? When you're doing that, from our studies and what we've learned, what have you just become?
One with God.
Okay, but up here, what have you become?
Peter.
You have become the Nukva.
Mm-hmm.
You have become the feminine aspect that has just been, quote unquote, penetrated by God's light. And then you have made yourself the Ma'im Nukvi, the stimulation from below. That would be the Kabbalistic term of stimulation from below. That's what all the mitzvahs are about, is stimulating God from below. Right? But this is literally stimulating him from below, but stimulating him from within himself, which is, more directly, not in a roundabout way.
The minute.
Yeah, it's called MON for short. Okay? So, the reason we're learning these kings is to ultimately understand everything in the Torah. And there's no shortcuts. Sorry. But think about this. This is from the lesson today. These fallen kings, all right? These fallen kings are quote unquote called sons of Elohim, the fallen angels, the fallen gods, the fallen this, the fallen that, the Nephilim that were in the land, all these giants and all these powerful entities. All right? Now, we know from Scripture and from the Midrashes and all these things that there were 974 generations, right? We've talked about the 974 primordial generations, primordial worlds. But we know it has to be 1,000. Because Keter is 1,000 and Malchut is 1. So you got 1, 10, 100, 1,000. Counts like that. And that's why those people that lived in that dispensation lived to be almost 1,000 years old. And then those people lived to be 400 or 500 years old. And then you get down here to maybe 120, 150, 180 years old with Abraham and those guys. And then as you get down here to the Nukva, people started living to be 70 years old, and days and numbers of a man's life, right? According to Psalms. Okay? Because you have the seven and the 1, is 70, okay? So there's a lot of things going on of why the ages in the Bible are the way they are. And as we understand this, now we can understand why. All right? But the word Elohim, which we know that the Nekudim was from the side of Din, side of extreme Guvaro. And this was the Elohim portion of God that was creating this. All right? Elohim has a numerical value of 120. All right? And if you take the 5 letters in Elohim, that's 5. So you have 120 plus 5 is 125. You have 8 kings. Because the 8 kings is what is going to make all of creation. All of creation, as we have learned, were all the potential of creation, as we've learned, were all in this whole process. All right? And all of the Atzilut, because we're creating Atzilut, Berea, Yetzirah, Asiya, where the Ab, the Sag, the Man, the Ben, and all the different things. So we know that the potential was all there, and we know that Elohim created creation. Because we know 32 times Elohim's name is mentioned in the creation in Genesis. Now, so if we have the numerical value of 125 times 8, we get 1,000. Now we know, like I said before, that if we have Messiah ben Joseph and the Messiah ben David, we have 1,000. So, Russell, how many people is it going to take to complete the formula?
1,000?
1,000. That's it. Because the formula is the same. It doesn't change. So what does King Solomon say in Ecclesiastes?
Nothing is new under the sun.
Nothing is new under the sun. He does say that, but he says, I have seen 1,000 and not one of them understand it. So, the reason people don't understand Torah is because only 1 in 1,000 get it. By definition, it can't be any other way. We live in Malchut, only 1 out of 1,000 get it. So if you get it even a little bit, You're 1 out of 1,000 that will. And I'm not talking about just random people. I'm talking about 1 out of 1,000 Torah scholars. This includes everybody in yeshiva that actually get it. You may have studied Torah and Halakha your whole life, and you start studying Zeron Pin and Nukva, and you go, what's that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Why you need that? That's because you're not 1 out of 1,000.
Yeah, you can be a halakhic scholar.
Yes.
And not get this.
Yes. And not get this. So, if you get it any, you got it. You're getting it. All right? Because the brain can only absorb so much light at a time. You know? And I've been on this trek a long, long time. And Russell will tell you 10 years ago, we didn't know which way was up.
Isn't it in the Pardes? Isn't that where the saying is 1,000 will enter and only one will come back out?
Only one comes out.
One comes out.
The Pardes, where we get the term paradise, Peshat, Remez, Drosh, and Sod. Remember, the Torah bifurcates, and you have the oral and the written over here, and then you have the Midrashes and the Kabbalah over here, the Sod. All right, Pardes. Remember, that was one of our first classes. I always teach on the Pardes. 1,000 enter the Pardes, and only one comes out.
Right, and that one can come in and out and go back and
That
forth.
one can go in and out of paradise. All he wants. And what is that? What is the entry gate? Da'at is the key to everything. Now, we know Elohim is 5 letters. There's always as we know, the Partsuf manifests itself out 5 deep, right? There's a circle within a circle within a circle within a circle, and 10 within that 5 on each side, right? So we have 5 fingers on this hand, and we have 5 fingers on this hand. All right? Now, what is Moses doing? This is all from the lesson this morning. What is Moses doing? Moses has ascended on mountain. He has 2 stone tablets in his hands, hewn from the Evanshtia, from the Da'at of Adam. And so, if it's from if that's Da'at, Moses is what? Which one of these spheroids? We know Moses is Netzach. But what is he doing when he has 5 and 5? What is Moses? Moses is Yesod. Because remember, all divine light travels through Yesod. And Moses was that Yesod of God that brought everything into being. All right? So look what happens. And Russell, you probably remember this. 5 Netzach, 5 Hod. The do's and don'ts. These are Netzach and Hod. These are the gonads. Moses is Yesod. So can you get the imagery now? So what happens? The first 2 commandments are I. They're coming from God. All right? And the third one is that just thou shalt not. Thou shalt, okay? But the first 2 are really pointed. And the Midrash says that on the first 2, everybody in the camp died. And God had to resurrect them. And he gave the second commandment, and everybody in the camp died. And finally, they said, Moses, no more. We don't want to hear it from God anymore. We just want to hear it from you. Let God tell you and you tell us, and we'll do it. All right? But what's happening within this? See, the nation of Israel is the Nukva. Moses is Yesod. God's voice and his presence, emanation, is the light. This is why Moses' face and his hair and his beard are white. Because he is on a total different level. Because white is Hesed, holiness, from the side of holy. Red, Edom. Red, Esau. Red is the side of Guvero. But Moses' beard and hair was white. His face shone. Because he's on the side of Hesed. So we know that all good light has to come from Hesed, from the Father's side. All right? And as we get into our lesson today, we'll see with these kings that the problem is the light over here. That they're restricting the light to getting to the Nukva. The light has to get to her. She has to be penetrated. So, Moses was that, Yesod was that channel. Every time God spoke, it killed him. The organusic force was so intense, it killed them. They were in such ecstasy, they couldn't take it. Their neshamas left their body because the intensity was too high, and they wanted to go cleave to it. That's how powerful it was. So finally, they just said, Moses, you have to do it. And that's what the 5 commandments and the 5 commandments are representing. The 5 on this side and the 5 on that side, and Moses is Yesod. Now, what happens? See, that was supposed to be the end of it. Adam had been resurrected. Adam's Yesod was back in place. Adam's Netzach and Hod were back in place. Jacob was there, right? Teferet was back in place. Isaac and Abraham, they were all there. Everything was there. And the kingdom and the Nukva was all at Mount Sinai, and it was supposed to be over. But they built a golden calf. And guess what? The Erev Rav knew. They knew that the formula called for 125. So guess how much gold and weight the golden calf was? 125 kabrugels or whatever they weigh it in. You know what I'm saying? All right. I probably botched that word, but for the sake of and that's why it came to life. Not only did the golden calf rise up out of the gold on its own, it came to life and it spoke. And if you'll read in Exodus, it says, let us make an Elohim. Not a Havayah. Because the whole thing in Exodus there is Yud He Vav He. Except for when you get to the golden calf and it says, let us make an Elohim. Or 125. They knew the formula. And this is the Erev Rav. They knew it would work. And it did. And it caused the fall and the split once again. So what happens? He has to break the channel of where the light has to come through of Netzach and Hod. You see the physicality in it of Adam and the reproductive thing that's going on with Hashem. See, he has to break that once again. And now we have to pick it up. Now, we know. I don't even know if we're going to get to our lesson today, but this is good. Now we know that the formula is 1,000. Right? But what? There's 974 generations. So where's the 26? How many generations? Okay, Yud He Vav He. I'm going to write it up here. Yud He Vav He. Does anybody know what the gematria of Yud He Vav He is? The numerical value?
26.
Thank you, Russell. 26. Now, here's something very important about the numerical value of 26. How many generations was it from Adam to Noah?
26.
14?
10.
10.
Oh, 10.
10.
And then
How many generations was it from Noah to Abraham? 10.
10.
How many generations was it from Abraham to Moses?
6.
Yes.
That is, your math is really good, Teresa. 6.
I was fixing to lose it because I only had 20 things.
Yeah. So 26 plus 974 equals
That
1,000. Stacy's got good math too. Now,
You got some good math, girl.
now, do you see why the Jews were not contaminated? Because only 974 is contaminated. It's like the tip of the iceberg poked through the tohu, so that tikkun could happen. It was in God's plan, because He had to create creation, and He had to use Guvarot to do it. There's no other way. You know, there's no other way. He had to use His feminine side to do it. But He also knew that the explosion that the light would cause could without it controlled, could just destroy anything because of the power of that. So He allowed 26 generations that is of His name. Remember, the only thing here is God and His name. So Yud He Vav He, which is the 26, is Hesed. So when the 26 that's Hesed comes in and fixes the 974, it now becomes 1,000, and Keter is restored. And that is the story of Torah. And so what we are doing with these kings is we are going through and we are studying who they are and what they are going to be in the story. Because see, these 974 generations and these 8 kings, they're all stored potential. Granted, it's billions of years. And it's the dinosaurs and the Nephilim and all this. Because in that dimension, it is way real. But the potential of it manifests itself in our dimension in the form of Balaam and all these different other things that these men on the 26 have to come up and fix in the natural, in Asiya, in the Nukva, in the kingdom. And so they take the instruction manual, the Torah, all the Torah, not just the written, the oral. They take all the Torah and they pass it down from generation to generation to generation, so that line of the 26 can continue to pick up the marbles and put them back in the bucket. And we can help. So that's kind of what is going on. And as you're going to see through these men here, when we talk about this one is Hesed, now they're all on the side of Guvarot, because we're dealing with the Hesed of Guvarot and the Yesod of and the Da'at of Guvarot. We're always talking about Din, because the first 8 kings in Genesis 36 are feminine, because they're Din. Guess where the masculine ones are, Teresa?
I bet they're in Genesis.
bet
They're in Chronicles.
I bet they're in Chronicles.
So why don't you call them a queen?
Huh?
Why don't you call them a queen?
No, because it's the essence of Guberot. You see what I'm saying? But for the sake of our discussion, we have to say they're on the feminine side.
Yeah.
You know, and for the sake of
The
discussion,
masculine can be on the feminine.
the masculine. What did we say a couple weeks ago? Light always overlaps.
That's right. That's when you're getting in touch with your feminine.
That's when you're getting in touch with your feminine. That's why dressing up in high heels is okay. No.
Let's make it.
That's ain't no.
They don't make a size 14.
So,
Oh,
so anyway,
I bet you can find a drag queen who's got a pair.
what I
Like to
wanted
see you get a pair.
what I wanted to illustrate here today,
walk on flat shoes.
out of the lesson is what where he's breaking down these kings and of course we're breaking them down, but what he's trying to show is a bigger picture, you know, of what's going on, because most people don't understand the Torah of what this man is doing. What in the world has circumcision got to do with Torah? What does cutting the skin off, the foreskin off, call it the klipa, call it the shell, call it the this, you're revealing the crown, you're doing this, but yeah, that's all part of the levels of knowledge that's going on with Abraham. But what's he doing? All right? Well, what we're going to see here today...
What is he doing?
Yeah, what is he doing? What we're going to see here today through these kings is the king that is Hesed is stopping the flow of light to the Nukva. They're keeping it all for themselves. And it's creating a barrier, and his name is basically, we're going to see, but it's going to be basically making a barrier that it doesn't get the light. Where Abraham's name is in a sense the removal of the barrier guy. And he's making a removal of that barrier so the Nukva gets its light. All right? So God,
The whole thing,
Yeah.
the whole thing going on without being able to conceive with Sarah, and the whole relationship between Sarah and Abraham is, Sarah receiving the light,
reestablishing,
being impregnated.
reestablishing Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut, reestablishing that whole thing, because that's what got blocked in the falling of the vessels. All right, and Adam in the garden, he let more of it happen, but he also knew that he had to start the expulsion process of all the Guverot. All right? So that's why in Torah you'll see always like two sons. One of them's bad, one of them's good. Because the first one's always going to be bad. Because why? The first one is always going to mimic creation. Din had to be created first. There was Cain and Abel. Cain was a bad one. You know? There was Jacob and Esau. Esau was a bad one. You see?
Yep.
And you're going to see this pattern, what we call iterate itself, again in every story, and it all goes back to Tohu and Tikkun. Esau Tohu, Jacob Tikkun. All the way down.
Because you had to have death before you could have life.
That's right. All right. And we see Noah, who is the personification of Yesod. He was literally Yesod. All right. But he has three sons. His three sons are Hasidim, Guverot, and Tiferet. And which one do you think uncovered his nakedness? Ham, Guverot guy. The story is told again and again to fix the tohu.
And he was the firstborn, wasn't he? Wasn't Ham the firstborn?
Yeah, and he's Guverot, sure.
He's good, and he's on that.
Yeah. Every story in Torah is this. So, I know some of this stuff is hard. Some of it's hard to wrap your mind around. But as we from last week, if all you took away from here was Bel Beor, was Da'at, you got it. That's all you needed to get. And you know, this next guy, he's going to be this one, and he's next going to be this one, and all the way down. And all these kings are going to line up and be a personification of Din in the Sephirotic structure. In the lower 7. And then the 8th king doesn't die. That's because when we get to the 8th king, that's going to be the creation of Barudim, the creation of Atzilut, the creation of Genesis. Because we're not dead. This world isn't dead. It's still living and going 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 and going. All right? And the wife is the Nukva. Mehetavel. That's why it only mentions the wife of the 8th king. Do y'all see where the story's going? The Zeranpin is being developed. You know? Zeranpin. I wrote it right here. The manifestation of Zeranpin in the Torah is going to be Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Joseph. And who was the king of Israel?
David.
David. That's why God loved David more than anything on the planet, because he was the Nukva. So, anyway, I kind of wanted to give a broad overview, because I know from last class it's so. When you're studying these guys and you're studying the code and you're delving into it, it's hard to wrap your mind around. But if you can see the visual of where it's headed down the road and what we're doing, and then we're going to go back when we get to Simchat Torah, we're going to be able to go back in and pick up a piece of Genesis and know how to apply it. What's he doing? You know, okay, what's Lamech doing? Why do they list the 10 prophetic people here with Enoch and Lamech and Methuselah? Why do they list 10 there? What the hell's that for? You know, why we got to do that? Well, that's the 10. He's getting the 10 rulers, the 10 Sphirot over here on the side of holiness that are giving birth to Noah, who is going to save the kingdom. And then it starts all over again. Then Noah has the 3 sons. Then it starts all over again.
Reborn.
Then it starts all over again. Then it starts all over again. And each one of these men in Torah, whether they are women, Rachel, Sarah, Leah, Bathsheba, they all knew. Esther, Ruth, Naomi, Rahab, the prostitute, they all knew exactly who they were. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew all of this a billionfold than we do. They knew exactly what they were doing. That's why it says in Torah that it cannot be said David never sinned. Because if you look at the story of David, it looks like he was a murderer and an adulterer. The Torah says, let it be said, David never sinned. And if anybody says that David sinned, it is as if they committed sin against the whole Torah. Because he did not. See, David knew who she was. He was getting rid of the tohu. He knew exactly what was going on. He went to Hashem and said, test me. Because David was born without sin. Why? How many years did Adam live?
930.
930 years. Where's our formula here, guys? Where's our formula here?
The 930.
We got to get to what?
We got to get to 1,000.
We got to get to 1,000. How many years did David live?
70.
He died on the day he was born,
Mhm.
at 70.
Adam gave him 70 years.
Adam gave him 70 years because Adam could see that King David, the Nukva, was going to be born premature and die. So Adam petitioned Hashem and said, cut my years off 30 because I got to do this tikkun. Cut my years to 930. Give him 70 because I have to do this tikkun. And of course Hashem knew that was going to happen anyway. So David ruled and reigned. Now, if we look at the regular normal Torah story, when it comes to Jacob and Esau, it looks like Jacob was a thief, stealing birthrights, and he was a swindler and a trickster and everything. He knew exactly what he had to do tikkun, to get rid of tohu. He had to extract the light, and he had to do it in whatever means he could do to save Adam and save Torah. So we have to take a mindset going into looking at these kings as because it's redundant, and it's this guy and this guy and this guy's this and this guy's that. But what is going on behind the scenes are these guys are laying down everything that is to come, and our world as we know it today.
They were setting a pattern.
They are the pattern. They are God's blueprint of the creation. Now we don't.
You're talking about both the negative and positive.
Yes. Even though they're quote unquote the kings of Esau, the evil and the this and that, they are the essence of all creation. So, we have about 20 minutes here left of class. So we will start with where we left off. We'll start with the second king. Come on in. You go check. I'll go check.
I don't know what that was.
It should be, Darlene.
Okay. Now, remember our overlapping light. Because he's going to say, well, this guy's Guvarot, and then in a minute he's going to say, oh, he's Hesed. So don't freak out. Okay, the second king, if you'll look on your deal I printed off for you last time, the second king's name is Yovav ben Zerach of Batzrah, personifying Guvarot, which is expressed through wailing. For the word wailing, Yabav, is related to the name Yovav. We are speaking here about evil Guvarot, unmitigated judgment, which causes unjust suffering, which is what's going on in the world today. Since this account describes how these kings who personified severe judgment of Tohu preceded the rectified order of Tikkun. They knocking.
They might be knocking now. They might have went around the corner.
Where is he? What line now?
The
Second line.
After
Is it Zerach?
Come on in. We're actually just getting started. Okay.
He's told us lots, but you're just getting started.
I'm just getting started on the second king, so you haven't missed anything.
Yeah, all right. You just,
All I got in was this because I figured you were nearly finished.
No. You came in just the right time. Literally, we're just getting started. Right, Chad? We're just now getting started. Okay. So we're on the second king of your thing. I printed you off.
yes.
Yovav ben Zerach of Batzra. Now, listen to this. This is what we was talking about earlier, guys. Since this account describes how these kings who personified for severe judgment of Tohu precede the rectified order of Tikkun, the king who personifies Guvurot must precede the king of Hesed. Because everything has to start with Guvurot. Now, what we're going to see is, he's kind of a little Hesed too. He is called Ben Zerach, which means the son of. Alright? He is called the son of because, as it is stated in the Midrash, the water conceived and gave birth to darkness. He was therefore son of Zerach. Now I'm going to read this and then I'm going to try to explain it. Okay? In explaining how the biblical account of creation assumes the existence of certain entities whose creation is not specifically mentioned, the Midrash says that three things preceded creation of the world: water, wind, and fire. Now, this is basically Hug principle. Hesed, Guvurot, and Teferet. Okay? Water conceives and gives birth to darkness. Fire conceives and gives birth to light. Wind conceives and gives birth to wisdom. There again, you'll see the three that I mentioned. And with these six things, the world is maintained. So now they drop down to the Midot of Zerampin. With wind, wisdom, fire, light, darkness, and water. For this reason, David did say, "Bless God, O my soul, O God, my God, you are very great." Zerach, of this guy's name, means shining. Perhaps this is referring to the water's ability to reflect light. But as we're going to go on, we're going to see there's more to the story. Furthermore, the numerical value of Zerach plus Koel is 216, referring to the 216 letters that issue from Guvurot, whose numerical value is also 216. So he's making a case of why this guy is the Sphirot of Guvurot. Because Guvurot's 216, Zerach's plus Koel, is 216. He is referred to being from Batzra, alluding to the harvest. Harvesting is called Betzra of black grapes, which alludes in turn to strict judgment. As we've always said, grapes, stuff like that is on the side of Guvurot. If they're black, dark red grapes, they're strict judgment. On the other hand, since this second king, see now he's not saying it, but what he's doing is he's having some overlapping light issues. All right. He says, on the other hand, since this king is called son of Zerach, it would appear that he personifies Teferet. Furthermore, his name Yovav can be considered alluded to Teruah, a trembling, welling Yevbav, which also corresponds to Teferet. Now, there are three shofar blasts, right? The long blast, Tekiah, the three broken blasts, Shevarim, and the Tehurah, the staccato blast, which we just talked about, is Teferet. So, these are corresponding to the three primary Sphirot of Midot: Hesed, Guvurot, and Teferet. So when you do the long blast, that's Hesed. When you do the three, that's Guvurot. And the broken blast, and then staccato, that is Teferet. And that is taking the two and putting them together, making them balanced, and that's Teferet. So That's the shofar blast that they use. So even in the shofar blast, they are fixing tohu. All right? Now, being son of Zarok associates him with Teferet, since Teferet is associated with the east, as we have said. The east is called Mezrach, the direction in which the sun begins to shine, because his name is Shine. This is in context with the numerical value of Zarok plus Koel 2:16 that can be seen as 3 times 72. We know that 72 is Hesed. And the 3 patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, personify the spherotes of Hesed, Guvurot, and Teferet, respectively. These 3 men are called the 216 of the Middot. The first 2 kings thus allude to Da'at and Teferet.
Teferet or Guvurot?
Well, he has a Guvurot. He's a part of Guvurot, because Guvurot always has to come first.
Right.
But he's somewhat mitigated in a sense that he's the son of. So he has to have some Hesed, because he has to be the son of. Mm-hmm. So they're putting him in Teferet. And what he's basically going to be is all 3 of them. Because Ari goes on to say, no, he's Hesed. So, without confusing you too much, can you say he's Guvurot? Absolutely. Can you say he's Teferet? Absolutely. Can you say he's Hesed? Absolutely. Because we are talking about the Hug principle.
Well, if they're in balance, they're all equal out anyway, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
talking about that second king.
The second king. We're still on the second king.
Okay.
All right? Now, the first 2 kings thus allude to Da'at and Teferet, which are masculine Sphirot. This explains why they are called sons of. So they're the masculine side of Guvurot, let's call them that. Okay? While the third king is not. Guvurot, in contrast, is feminine, as we know, and located on the left side of the Sephardic tree. In this context, the name Yovav alludes to the name Havayah. First of all, it explicitly possesses the 2 letters of the name Yud and Vav, which signifies Chokhmah and Teferet. Yovav is spelled Yud Vav Bet Bet. And the name Havayah is spelled Yud He Vav He. As we have explained, the 4 letters of this name are respectively associated with the 4 letters of the Partsuf, Abba, Ima, Zeranpin, and Nukfa. Alright? Yud, He, Vav, He.
Sharon P.
Abba,
and Nukpa.
Ima, Zeranpin, and Nukfa. That's the Yud, He, Vav, He. Alright? So when you say Hashem, Havayah, you are putting everything together as one thing. You are saying Abba, Ima, Zeranpin, Nukva. It's all one. Alright? Abba, as we know, developed out of Chokhmah, while Zeranpin is the middle, when the central one is Teferet. Now, in this guy's name, he has 2 bets. Now, because we have our deal up here, I'm going to show you where the 2 bets come from in his name. The 2 bets allude to Bina and Malchut. These are the 2 houses of Israel.
Okay.
The word bet means house. The 2 feminine partsoups of Ima and Nukva. But if you look right here, see, remember we had the Sog and the Bin? The Sog and the Bin? Hey, 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 female, Sarah, Leah, female, house, house, the house of God. He wants to make it a house for all people. See the code? It's not a building.
It's a place.
Yeah.
Spiritual
It's a
place.
dimensional, spiritual place of the woman. Now, let's continue. These are the wives of the two masculine, Abba and Zeranpin, the father and the smaller face. The sages say, yeah,
Two wives of
the two wives of one is Abba's wife, which is Bina, and Zeranpin's wife, who's the Nukva. All right. Now, this is why the sages say a man's house is his wife.
it's his castle.
A man's house is his castle. No, a man's house is his wife. See, a woman's house is the house, but a man's house is his wife. That's why a woman likes, as soon as you get married, what's the first thing they want? House. And all a man wants to do is be in his house. Because that's where he belongs. It's the number one cause of divorce. If you never bought a woman a house, would she stay with you? No. She has to have a place she can call her home. It's by formula. Okay? Now, since the name Yovav, the masculine Sphirot, are alluded to before the feminine ones, he is mentioned as being son of so and so. We see that this king can allude either to Guvarot or to Pharaoh. To complicate matters further, the Arizal states, nah, he's Hesed. Okay, so that's the second king. And we'll stop right there. We'll do the third king next time. All right? We're going to go through all these kings. And the next king is going to be the king of Hesed. And it's really cool. This next king's a really cool one because we can throw some Abraham in there and we can see what's going on with Abraham. So we'll do that. We'll do that. Class next Tuesday, everybody. Next Tuesday, put it on your calendar next Tuesday night because I'm going to be gone Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from the office. So we'll have fishing. We'll have class. I'm going after Leviathan. So
I thought it was July. I knew it was about time.
It's Poco Bueno time.
Leviathan hunting.
Yeah, Leviathan hunting. So next Tuesday night, 6 o'clock, we will go over the third king and maybe the fourth king. But hopefully you can kind of see now. You weren't here for the first portion of the 40 minutes of the class, but I gave kind of an overview, and so maybe Lloyd can kind of go over that with you, and of where we're going, because guys, what I want out of this class for y'all is a year from now, y'all look at Torah and the world outside in a completely different way. Nothing is what it appeared to be a year ago. That's what I want you. I want you to look at it and go, "Oh man!" And if you feel like you are insignificantly nothing,
yeah, it'll be worse next year.
Yeah, it'll be worse next year. Yeah. Here's the thing, y'all. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about feeling that you're insignificantly nothing. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of humility. And that's what God's looking for.
You mean it's not poor self-esteem?
No. It's not poor self-esteem. It's a definition of humility. And humility in the eyes of God is woof.
Well, humility is when you lose the ego.
Yeah.
And when you lose ego, that's when
once you figured out, when you get to that spot, you figured out God is big, this is so vast. God is so incredibly smart, and you know, and how could it possibly even know I exist? That's when you're at a great place with God, because now you can go to Him, and He knows you've left all ego out the door. He knows you realize who He is, how big He is, and He's all ears, because it's not about you anymore.
That's right. Yeah, you're approaching Him because it's not about you, because you're nothing.
Yeah.
And you know you're nothing.
Once you realize you're nothing, that's the best place in the world.
Then everything you receive from Him,
So-
you receive in the right manner, and it's
Right.
it's good. It's not
Right.
not for yourself.
So when 1,000 people get to that spiritual place, California will drop into the sea.
You would be surprised
No,
what we
no.
drop into the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we want to be one of those 1,000. You know, we want to be one of those 1,000 that really makes a difference on the earth as a part of the Nukva. We want to be a part of what's rising in His thought. If you're at that place, you are rising in His thought. Now, not starting a rising, you have already rose in His thought. Once you're in this place, whatever this place is,
That
this,
you described.
yeah, this place of Torah, this place of humility, this place of prayer that we're talking about, being one in 1,000, making yourself the nukva, making yourself the man, making yourself this stimulation from below. In other words, submitting to Him as a wife submits to her husband in a union connotation. That, my friend, is how the light gets brought back here. That's the only way the light gets brought here. And so what we're living on this earth right now is a thread of, if you took a thread of one of y'all's hair and I held it up, that's how much light is coming to the earth from God.
Wow. So
Just
little.
enough to keep it alive. Because there's no stimulation from below. What happens if 1,000 become Ma'im Nukvim? How much light now penetrates the earth? Boom! See, that is the secret of what formula?
1,000.
No, formula 999.
Oh, that's right.
Formula 999. Because Messiah ben Joseph is formula 999, and David is boom. See, David is Malchut, is one. His name is one. Nothing here but the oneness of Hashem. That's it. That's what Abraham was preaching, the oneness of God. There's nothing else here but the one. Now we know there's 216, and we know there's 288 and 320 and 280 and 26 and 52 and 45 and 63. We know that there's other aspects, but when you add it all up, it's one.
But I think they're all trying to get you to the one.
Yeah.
And all these have already happened, right?
No,
They've
what?
already been Tikkun.
No. Tikkun is still
No, all those numbers.
all these numbers.
Yeah, have been. They have made Tikkun.
We're kind of in the 52.
And we're working to the 1,000.
We're in the 52. We're in Ben. We're down here in Ben in the kingdom of Malchut, and it is our job to understand what the nukva is and how to become the nukva, and that is praying like a prophet. That's what the prophets knew. That's how they could channel God to the earth.
So are we going to learn how to do that?
Yeah, she was sharing.
Yeah.
The first 20 minutes.
I was kind of going over a very basic way. Now there's one of these days, once y'all all get it and y'all get all matured in all this stuff, I will go over and give you the most in-depth, detailed way of how to do that. And
So were you giving us resume? Resume, which is just a whiff.
I'm giving you just a
whiff.
just a residue, just the residue, just the inner crust, and that's what you have to realize. Everything that fell out of here just had a little bit of light on it. God pulled back, so to speak, because it's Simpson. He's pulling back, and He concealed all the light. So that's why I say we're just hanging on by a thread. He concealed all the light for Olam Haba, the world to come. And it's because what is the light? This big orgasmic blast that you're going to get in the world to come. That's why when you're before God, you can't talk, you can't move, you can't nothing. Because the tingling effect is just overwhelming.
You're pinned down.
You're all right. Well, he concealed all that for the what in the world to come? For the righteous.
Wow.
What's the righteous? Yesod. That's why it's very sexual. That's why Abraham was circumcised. You see all the sexual connotations.
Still, is the righteous would be the 1 in 1,000.
The righteous are the 1 in 1,000. That's right. It has to follow the formula. It can't not. God can't not. Once it's there, he has to go by that. He can't deviate from
The pattern.
No.
Now, is this looking for 1,000 people in the whole earth?
Yes.
That's all.
And
Just
there's
1,000.
not any?
Nope.
I mean,
We're looking for 1,000 people
Yeah,
on the whole
that's
earth. And I guarantee you, from our group and Back's group, we may have a dozen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That get it. Because not only, here's the thing, I could teach 1,000 people this.
And one would get it.
You have to have a consciousness of it. You have to get it. You
You've
can't just know the prayer. I mean, they've taught prophetic prayer. They've taught Taurus prayer. I taught Jerusalem of the mind up there. I gave them the blueprint, and nobody got it.
Can you give it again? I want
Yeah,
to know.
I'll give it again.
Could you just tell
okay,
by
it's-
looking at their faces? That
Oh,
they
sure. Because if anybody would have got it, they would have come up to me and go, "Oh my God."
Yeah, right.
Because
Wow.
I gave them the nugget of all nuggets, and it went right over the head. Because they
didn't have the rest of them
the
yet.
first thing they would have asked me is, "Dude, how do I do that? How do I go to lose? How do I go to my own Holy of Holies? How do I tap into the Ark of the Covenant? How do I sit between the cherub and listen to God?" I could have gave them the whole thing. But it's you have to be initiated like a fraternity. You have to be initiated.
You can't waste the light.
Yeah, you can't waste the light. You have to be initiated into what's going on, and that's what y'all are going through now. Y'all are getting initiated into what's going on because you have to have a consciousness. You cannot enter the Pardes without a consciousness. You've got to have a consciousness. And because here's, and you've heard it said, "Oh man, you learn that shit, you go crazy." Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I'll take
Here's the
that.
problem with that. Here's the problem with that. They are given the formula, but they don't know how to add.
Add.
Yeah, they don't know how to put it together.
Collated.
Yeah. It's like you've been given a recipe book, but you don't even have a stove.
Or
All right?
food.
So what I'm doing here is I'm giving you guys a basis.
Don't have any measuring cups.
You don't have any measuring. I'm giving you guys a
Yeah,
basis
that's good.
of what is going on in the whole structure, so that when we get to a point where you've got a conscience of it, you do, I do, everybody does, and we can go and we can talk to anybody about Zeranpin and Nukva and know what's going on, and talk way, I can talk to somebody about Torah for about 30 seconds, and I can tell what you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know. You know?
Or if you have a resume at all.
Yeah, I know exactly where, and you know what? All these Torah scholars do too. They can talk to you for about 30 seconds and know whether they're going to tell you anything or not.
Mm-hmm.
They can't let the light escape.
Because it would create something negative.
That's right. They can't feed the
You're
tohu.
shielding it,
Yes,
hiding it.
yes.
Okay.
What did God do? He let just a little bit out and he kept the rest. You got to do the same thing with Torah. You can't just give it out like bleh. And that's the hardest thing, because you want to tell everybody about how badass this is. Right?
How what?
How good it is. All right?
Yeah.
Because it's the coolest thing on the earth.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing on the earth.
Well, it's just, I've gotten
It's
so
overwhelming.
consumed with trying to read and buying more books.
Hey, you gotta know more. Gotta know more.
And I don't have enough
I know.
eye power to.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. You know. And but here's what's going to happen. Within a year from now or whatever, you're going to look back and you're going to go, oh my goodness, look where we're at. And you know what? We ain't nowhere. I've been saying that, and Russell's been saying that every year for 10 years. We've been going, can you believe what we know this year?
And you just don't
believe-
have a sliver of nail stuck in the water.
No,
Yeah.
no, just your toenail is all. We could spend the next 40 years of our lives till I'm 84
Well, how
studying
did
this stuff.
How did the masters get so far in such short lifetimes?
Their neshama
Was strong when they were
is
born.
from a root way higher than ours. That's they had a head start. Let's put it that way.
That's the whole thing with us is we're trying to get our neshama, but I mean our nefesh and our ruach closer to our neshama.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of elevation.
Yeah.
That's the whole
The
point of
nefesh-
not.
So
Our
like our
soul
root is
and our-
dangling way up
It's-
there.
Yes. And we're trying to get to it and trying to get it to us.
We're trying to get a better connection. That's kind of the thing behind the consciousness. Kind of not eating pork, trying to
Yeah.
study Torah, trying to get all of this going in our head. Which what's happening is it's bringing our nefesh and our ruach closer to our neshama, and then all these things making this connection starts
and
coming together.
it all goes through Da'at. Why does it have to go through Da'at? Because that's where the problem started. Now, Russell has a saying that's the greatest saying on the planet. Eating unclean is birth control for Da'at.
I don't. Yeah, that's one.
You have to coin that term.
No, it's not my term.
Oh, okay.
But I've heard it. I've heard it.
But anyway, that's the thing. If Noahides
Originator.
or Jews for that matter don't eat clean as a bare minimum, you will never, ever, ever understand anything in this book. You can't, because it blocks the light from transversing from Bina to Hokmah, which then produces the At. So that's why
I've
it's
heard
so
that the
important.
pork actually changes your DNA,
Well-
so that you become more animalistic.
Well,
And
what
the
is
more
what
animalistic
they're
the
saying
less you-
is I don't have the souls up here, but the
Well,
bottom
the thing is, you are what you eat, I guess.
yeah, the bottom
My mother
soul,
always said that. Yeah.
the bottom soul is the nefesh, okay,
Yeah.
and then the next one up is the ruach, and then the next one up is the neshama, and then the chayda, and then the yachayda. Those are the five. The tip of the yud hey vav hey. Okay.
It's admirable.
Everybody is born with nefesh, the animal soul. You have to get past that to get to ruach. And he breathed the breath of life and he became a living ruach. That's what that word is.
Yeah.
It doesn't say living soul, it says living ruach. So a lot of people have gone below that to just an animal, all right? Yeah.
That's breath.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
I
here.
got that.
Right here. Yeah, right here. There's a soul.
Or here's these
There's a
are-
soul right there. That's what we're talking
I
about.
read just yesterday that hardly anybody has ever gotten this high.
No, nobody will. The highest we're gonna ever get to is neshama. We want to get to neshama
Y'all have this
Because we're
page.
Gentiles?
well, no, because that's high as you can get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right now here's because
Moses
the other
didn't
two
even-
are the other two are left for world count.
Oh,
All right.
Okay.
See, we're still going to be studying Torah in heaven
Yeah, at the academy.
every day. All
Oh, I
right.
can't wait.
Yeah. And we're going to be taught by Moses and Aaron and Solomon and all the great ones.
Akiva.
Yeah, and that Rabbi Akiva,
I've got
and the
another.
Gaon of Vilna.
Let me tell you something. You were talking about the houses and the husband and wife buying it. I bought my
But
first house
just
today.
memorize
Well, praise
memorize
God.
that.
And
Ruth,
another
she
thing,
did that.
yesterday morning I woke up and had the strangest dream ever. I dreamt my mother was alive, and I was taking her to 3 different places, parading her around, saying, "This is the woman that you knew, but she's been dead a year and 3 months, but she's alive. She's come back to life." I mean, it was like she had been raised from the dead, and I couldn't figure out what in the world that meant. But if you're saying over and over, you said they died, they got the first commandment, and they all died, but they came back to life.
And they came back to life. Yeah. Yep. Here's the key. Here's the key to the clean. All right. Going back to what we're talking about with the pork and all this. Now you have to realize that what was the highest has fallen to the lowest. So pork is holy of holy, and you can't touch. You can't go into holy of holy. You can't touch it. All right. There's even a Jewish prayer that says that they desire to eat and wish they could. All right. But
how did the pork drop to?
Well, it's
too complicated.
Yeah, too complicated.
Okay.
Just know it's holy of holies and it fell to the bottom because it.
It was.
Yeah, and it fell, so you can't eat it. All right. Now, when you die, you have five. There's five. Well, there's 5 levels of just the nefesh, and then the bottom part of your nefesh. I'll get into teaching this one day, but the bottom level nefesh splits into 2. So there's 2 parts. When you die, one of those parts hovers over your grave, over your bones, over your body, until the resurrection.
What if you're cremated?
That would be a good teaching for Bereshit when we get to Bereshit.
Yeah.
Because you know that deal, like you did on the verse, that was a good.
Yeah.
That's a good. The first 5 verses
Yeah.
I'm
of
not
the.
really sure why, but I just know you're not supposed to.
No, that you're not supposed to cremate. No. Because of the loose bone and the moisture, that's the water, that's the Torah that is in your bones. Your Torah is stored in your bones. That's why Ezekiel said, "Can I make these bones live?"
Really?
Well, I mean that's good too, but it's like you can't get because of the 6 million Jews that were cremated in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
It's not like a ending factor.
It's not
some of your
it's
family
not an impossibility.
or somebody was
You're
like
just
that.
not supposed to. All right. If somebody asks you, "Should you do it?" and you tell them no. If they've done it, hey, whatever.
Yeah, it's not an ending
The
factor.
reason they did cremate them was because they knew that you weren't supposed to. They did it in defiance of God.
Oh, you mean the Jews and
In the
Holocaust?
Nazis. Yes. They did it in defiance of God. Now hold on, let me finish where I'm going with my story.
Okay.
So we don't get on another rabbi trail. Gehenna, hell. Only your nefesh goes there. So if you have attained Ruach in your lifetime here,
You bypass that?
you get to skip it.
Yeah. You pay. It's like you pass go.
You get to skip Gehenna. So
Or you pass.
So
you pass
we
hell or
want to
whatever you pass.
elevate ourselves, our souls, and the world and Adam. And when we actively participate that, we are trying to get that neshama down. All right? Now I can tell you this. If you're getting any of this at all, you've already elevated past the nefesh. You know what I'm saying?
We're not going to hover.
Yeah, we're not. Well, there's always a part that hovers. It has to. Because that's the part
Because it connects.
That's the part that enters the bones for resurrection.
Okay.
That's why those bones were able to be resurrected.
Exactly, Stacy. That's the whole story of the Valley of Dry Bones. Because he said they were dry bones. Remember, if you heard me when I was talking, I said the moisture, the wetness that's in the bones is the Torah that you've learned in your lifetime. And that's why Ezekiel says, well, how can I lift these Valley of Dry Bones? And I can't resurrect. Big story, big prophetic thing going on there. All right? With the 2 sticks, make the 2 sticks become one. What do you think the right stick is? What do you think the left stick is? What do you think the center stick is? The staff, the stick. Take Netzach and Hod, make them one that were broken. It's all going back to Tohu, Tikkun, every story, every single story. We're going to see it. The Torah is fixing to blow up for everybody. But we got to understand, that's why I wanted to start with Ak, with Ein Sof. Go through Ak. Go through Akudim, go through Nekadim, get to Barudim, go through the Tohu, get to Barudim, start at Genesis, and now we know what's going on in Scripture. And we are studying it from a scientific order, the Hishtal-Shalut, the order of creation. We're studying it as it should be studied. Nobody knows this stuff. It's never taught this way. I guarantee it's never been taught this way to any Gentile.
I don't know if it's been taught to anybody this way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever been taught to anybody this way.
But leave it to a
They didn't
Gentile
have
to
one.
teach it like it ain't never been.
Leave it to a Gentile to teach it the right way. No, but that's but see, that's what our thing is. And then you're going to teach it, and then you're going to teach it, and you're going to teach it, and you're going to teach it, and you're going to teach it to the whosoever's. But you can't get frustrated when you teach, when you're talking to somebody. I mean, I don't talk.
If you feel the right, that's right to let the light out.
I don't talk to anybody about Torah anymore. None of my friends, quote unquote
Mine
friends.
either.
I don't talk to anybody because you know what? They ain't gonna get it.
We do have a friend though that he will not serve us pork. If he has pork, he makes sure.
Oh
he
yeah,
has
yeah.
chicken.
Well, that's a
Or
little
he
bit.
has
You know,
fish.
I mean, that's the casting your pearls to the swine.
Sure.
I mean, what you know. So anyway, I say all that to just give y'all an idea of how important it is to guard your salt with your eating and stuff like that,
And you know, guard giving out.
the Torah.
Don't you know, waste your light that you get from here,
Yeah.
or you get from Torah, or you get from study, and don't just spill that on somebody or something that's
Because we want to
unholy.
destroy the tohu. We don't want to feed it.
I
Yeah.
learned that being married and being brutally abused
Yeah.
because of the light in me.
Yeah, and
And I learned to keep my
this
mouth
is
shut.
this is why the Jews are killed because of the
Sure.
light. I mean, you know,
Sure. And you don't even have to say anything sometimes.
No,
The
you know,
light
it's
just
not-
shines.
Yeah, you know, and so anyway, the Torah is amazing, the sages are amazing, this class is amazing, and everybody's amazing that's in it. I'll see y'all next Tuesday for Kings 3 and 4.
This